Today we're going to be talking Analogue Pocket. Today we're going to be talking about the Analogue Pocket. I've had it for about 4 or 5 months now, and I just kind of want to give a nice in-depth review on my personal experience with the handheld. Alright, so the Analogue Pocket is, I think, the best handheld in the market right now. It is the best way to play authentic retro gaming hardware. Alright, so I guess in order for us to understand this, what is Analogue? And why is this different? So Analogue is a company that uses FPGA technology for emulation. So there's a difference between FPGA and emulation. So you guys may be wondering, what is the difference between what's going on here compared to playing Pokemon Leaf Green on my PC or my Android phone or iPhone or whatever. So something to understand is that FPGA is hardware, whereas emulation is software, meaning that there's actual chips and circuitry involved in the making of these products, whereas software is more of the program itself. So what does this mean exactly? I guess basically what this means is that when I pop in, right now I have Kirby, as you guys can see here. When I plug in Kirby into this Analogue Pocket, using FPGA, it scans the game, recognizes it as a Game Boy Advance game, and it'll mimic a Game Boy Advance handheld console. So FPGA mimics the hardware, not the software. So this thing has a ton of features that I want to talk about, but before that, let's talk price. This thing is not on the cheap side. This thing runs you $220 USD, American dollars, right? And going through their website, it's not only this, it comes with a dock that you can connect to a TV, and this thing also has adapters for Sega Game Gear, Neo Geo Pocket, and Atari as well. And naturally, it plays Game Boy Advance and Game Boy, OG Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. But you can get the adapters if you want to play Neo Geo Pocket, if you want to play Sega Game Gear. So it could run you a lot of money. So this is something that from the very beginning, I want to say this is just, I highly recommend this really for people who collect retro games, who have a huge library of games that they can go to. If you only have 1 or 2 games and you're trying to spend money on this thing, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. It's going to run you a lot of money. On top of that, if you want it now, you're going to have to get it through eBay, because ordering it through Analogue is going to take a really long time for you to get the product in your hands. All right, so first things first, let's talk exterior here. From the looks of it. So this thing, it's great. It comes with, you have your directional pad, which feels great to the hands. You have your 4 buttons for, Game Gear, Neo Geo. You have your start, you have your select button, and you have a middle button there. That's the analog. That's kind of used for to access submenu, to access certain things that I'll show later on. And then you have your volume buttons on the side with the power button on the side as well. And then we go to the bottom, you have your headphone jack, and you have USB-C cable, and you have the link cable as well. So you can do, let's say you could trade Pokemon through link cable, or, I know there are other Game Boy games that have multiplayer games, mini games that you can play with friends. So you'll have access to that as well. And also the L and R buttons in the back. Now, when I first saw the design for this thing, I was always a big fan of this when they initially announced it, but the L and R buttons always had me a little nervous. The reason why is because the Game Boy Advance SP, which I'll show you guys, the Game Boy Advance SP has a similar design. You have your LNRs on the back here, which in theory is not a bad thing, but when you're trying to play racers, or you're trying to play, I don't know, fighting games, and you're someone who, is an adult, you have grown-up hands, it can get a little crampy. And after a while, you can get a little tired. So I was never a fan of the LNR design here with the SP. So that was my worry with the Pocket. I thought it was going to be a similar issue. However, this is something that I want to reiterate, the size of this thing. This thing's big. So to compare, I want to show you guys a Game Boy Color next to an Analogue Pocket. As you can see, this thing is significantly bigger than this, and significantly bigger than Game Boy Advance SP as well. So because of its size, the LNRs feel great on your hands, honestly. And when you're playing top down, looking down like this, playing a racer or a fighting game, it feels very comfortable to the hands. And I have to applaud Analogue there. The size definitely was the difference when it comes to this. So as far as for me, I didn't have any cramping issues. I didn't have any moments where I felt uncomfortable or stressed out within the hands because of this. It felt really good. All right, so now let's talk screen. The screen is beautiful, absolutely beautiful here. I'm gonna reference the Analogue website here. It has a 1600 by 1440 resolution, so you get a really good look at this thing here. So Analogue really had the Game Boy Color in mind, I think, because it resembles a Game Boy Color a lot, OG Game Boy even. So this screen here fills up beautifully when you're playing Pokemon, OG Pokemon games. Pokemon Crystal looks amazing, as you're seeing here in the B-roll. Anything that's OG Game Boy Color is gonna look absolutely stunning. Now Game Boy Advance, it looks good, but remember, Game Boy Advance had that horizontal screen. So what the Analogue does, it does kind of like a widescreen format, as you can see here in the footage. It isn't that noticeable because of the sharpness of the screen. The blacks on the borders, at least to me, blend very well with everything. So it doesn't feel, it doesn't look obnoxious. It doesn't look out of place. It looks fine. And to me, it looks great. All right, so now let's talk like features within the console itself. Now, keep in mind, Analogue recently released an open FPGA update. I believe it allows you to have ROMs within the console. I think they're allowing you to just kind of be able to put as much ROMs as you want into the console itself. I haven't done, it's a new update. I recommend you guys go check out the website and maybe check out a more in-depth video that, I know there are some videos that go deep into the detail of that, but I'm going over with the specs that I had before that update. So, all right, so when you're running a game, you can have settings, but if you go to settings and you go to like, let's say Pocket, or yeah, you go to the systems, it says there, it tells you the list of the systems that are available: Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance. You hit Game Boy Advance, you can go with the audio, you can go with original audio, you can enhance the audio. I like original. I like to keep things as authentic as possible. Controls, you can just kind of mess around with the controls there. I don't really touch that. Video, this is really cool. You can, change sharpness, you can desaturate. Display mode is cool. You can mess around with the Analogue GBA, which kind of takes away the pixelized thing, which I don't like. Original Game Boy Advance, which has that faded color there that still looks nice, but I like I always go with original SP101, which is the best one. I think it's a vibrant color and you get the little pixels within the screen like in the Game Boy Advance SP, which is the display that I like. So you could toggle between that. Now another thing you can do as well is have like a save state. All right, so if you hit the Analogue Pocket and up on the directional pad, you create a save state, and then here we can hold analog and press down on the directional pad, and then it loads you back where you left off. And you also have sleep mode. Puts it to sleep, and then you just tap it once and it wakes up. To me, that's great because when like you could be playing, you could just easily just put it to sleep, pick up right where you left off without having to turn the whole console off or have to save before you quit. You can just put that thing to sleep. And I've had it where I've held it for hours and hours, and I'll come back to it and it works fine. Now I have to give a disclaimer here with sleep mode. My leaf green save data got deleted using sleep mode. I don't know what I did. To access that, I emailed Analogue and they told me to send them a video of how it happened. I didn't want to recreate it. I wasn't motivated to recreate it. I was very bummed out because I had a lot of hours into that. I had a nearly complete Pokédex on leaf green, and that really hurt. So I lost that save data with the sleep feature. Now I went on not Reddit, but I checked online and I found a Reddit user who experienced a very similar issue that I did. He basically said word for word what happened with me, and he mentioned that it only happened with his leaf green. Now, I don't know if it's a leaf green problem, maybe something with the game's internal code, I don't know what, but it happened with that. Now, I have used the sleep mode with other games. I've used it with Kirby, Mario Kart, other Pokemon games. I used it with Pokemon Emerald, with Red and Blue, and I haven't had those issues. I I don't know what I did wrong. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's just something that maybe it was just one of those glitches. I'm not sure, but just something to be aware of. I would suggest if you're a big Pokemon user, I would just turn off the console. That's what I did. I picked up Leaf Green. I beat it again, and I didn't do sleep mode at all. I just turned it off completely. I didn't want to risk it. Now, guys, those are some of the features that I like, the ones I mainly use. And I've had this thing for about 4 months now, and I absolutely love it. It is honestly worth every penny. It is every value for your dollar if you're somebody who collects Game Boy games, Game Boy Advance games, if you have a Game Gear, if you have a Neo Geo Pocket, if you have those kind of games. This is the greatest value that you can get. It really is. It is absolutely amazing. The games look awesome. It runs well. The games perform great. The audio on this thing is awesome. This is a really good handheld console. It's honestly one of my favorite purchases that I think I've ever made. Do not regret getting this at all. And so I highly recommend it for you guys. If you are a collector of retro games, if you want to start up a physical game collection, I'd pick this. If I had to pick between a modded Game Boy Advance with like HDMI, all that stuff, in an Analogue Pocket, you're gonna get more value from the Analogue Pocket because you have sleep mode, you have save states, you have all those things that was made for it. It was made for that console. As a Game Boy, obviously, it's been modded to have these things. It's not the same, and they go for around the same price. Plus, if you want to shell out the extra cash, you can put the dock in the Analogue, hook that up to a TV, and I think you could connect Bluetooth controllers with that thing. I mean, there's a lot of things, and on top of that, guys, like I mentioned earlier, Analogue is updating this thing. They recently put open FPGA, but they have a roadmap of updates they want to do in the future. And so this is something that's only going to get better over time. So if you want, you can maybe wait a year. I'm pretty sure this thing in a year, it's going to be a beast with the features that they're going to add. I know they want to do a lot of other things. They want to add screenshots and all that. I think it'd be really cool to add screenshots. I would love screenshots. I would take so many. So yeah, they have there's a lot of potential in this handheld. There's a lot of updates that are going to come in the future. So this is only going to get better. All right, guys, that was my video review, I guess, personal experience with the Analogue Pocket. I have had a lot of fun with this handheld. Thank you guys for watching the video. If you have questions, let me know. I'll be happy to answer. But overall, thank you guys for watching. This is, in theory, my first video for this channel, and I look forward to making more content regarding other gaming things. I have a ton of stuff that I want to show and talk about and just kind of, let you guys know about, because I think it's fun. We could all learn a little something. All right, guys, thank you all for watching. Have a good one, and I'll catch you guys next time.